You're watching To The Point and I'm Anjana Om Kashyap. Is it time for us to reward a stone pelter? The State Human Rights Commission has directed the Jammu and Kashmir government to give 10 lakhs as compensation to Farooq Ahmed Dar, the man Major Gogoi tied to his jeep to rescue an election party. Who deserves applaud is the question. Who deserves applaud and award? Major Gogoi or a stone pelter Farooq Ahmed Dar?
Soldiers using a stone pelter as a human shield to save lives of election officials and civilians. The incident took place in April this year and sparked a massive controversy, with human rights groups and some political parties condemning the act. The army officer, Major Gogoi of the 53rd Battalion, the Rashtriya Rifles, received the Chief of the Army Staff's commendation for the Rescue Act. The praise which came under fire from many quarters. Now the Jammu and Kashmir State Human Rights Commission has awarded 10 lakh rupees as compensation to Farooq Ahmed Dar, the alleged stone pelter who was tied to the bonnet of the jeep.
He was the person who was instigating them, and he might be the ringleader. And he himself got in a bike and tried to flee away from the scene. But somehow, despite intense stone pelting and getting hurt, we caught hold of him. And he was known by the name Mr. Farooq Ahmed Dar.
The question is, why is the Human Rights Panel rewarding a man accused of instigating stone pelters? What about the human rights of DSP Ayub Pandit, who was lynched by a bloodthirsty mob outside the Jamia Mosque in Srinagar? Why hasn't the human rights body ordered a compensation for patriot DSP Ayub Pandit? Why is the State Human Rights Commission not taking up cases of terror victims?
Law does not give you permission to give relief and compensation to stone pelters, to the separatists, to a terrorist. And this is anti-law step taken by the State Human Rights Commission in Jammu and Kashmir to give compensation to a stone pelter. This is simply unacceptable to Bharatiya Janata Party.
State Human Rights Commission's order is very clear. In fact, in a very strongly worded judgment, the Commission says that Farooq Ahmed Dar was humiliated, his human rights were violated, and he was illegally confined on that day. Now the question is that if State Human Rights Commission has called him a victim and asked the state government to compensate Farooq Ahmed Dar, how does the government and the army now explain Major Gogoi's action on that day? With cameraman Roof Shujaul Haq in Srinagar for India Today.
For all those people who are going to come out to defend Farooq Ahmed Dar, the message is loud and clear. We want to remind them of DSP Muhammad Ayub Pandit and what happened to him when he was on duty. He was lynched by a mob of just so many stone pelters whose name is coming out, because Major Gogoi has clearly said that Farooq Ahmed Dar was a stone pelter. He was in the crowd. He was instigating the stone pelters. He somehow saved the lives of the patrolling party who had gone on election duty. The country stands with him today, and with the fact that he saved lives that day just by his presence of mind, and that is why the Indian Army and the Defence Ministry has actually awarded him. On the other side is the State Human Rights Commission's direction now to the state government to give 10 lakhs compensation to the stone pelter Farooq Ahmed Dar. On the show today, we are joined by Sardar R.P. Singh, National Secretary BJP from Delhi, Brigadier V. Mahalingam in the studio with me here, defence analyst from the studio, Junaid Azam Mattu, spokesperson of Jammu and Kashmir National Conference from Srinagar, Suhail Bukhari, political analyst from Delhi. We have Shabnam Lone, activist and Supreme Court lawyer. I first want to come to you, Junaid Mattu. My question to you is that your party leaders had very emotionally tweeted and put the Indian Army in a dock when these visuals came out. My question to you is, this man is a stone pelter is what Major Gogoi told the country. he has actually now it's been directed that the state government should reward him. What is your party stand now? Do you still feel that Farooq Ahmed Dar is the hero? He deserves compensation and no applaud for Major Gogoi?
Hello?
Please don't interrupt me. We don't believe he is a hero. The poor guy is a victim. I heard you say that Major Gogoi says this, Major Gogoi says he's a stone pelter. That's true, that's what Major Gogoi says. There was a major in Machal in Kupwara who said that I killed Pakistani terrorists. Eventually the court of inquiry of the army itself and the CBI of the country found out that the major had lied and the major was court-martialed. So Major Gogoi is not about the law of this country.
The Indian Army has backed him in this case,
state as of yet. The
Indian Army has backed Major Gogoi in this case. Just because you're quoting a number of cases, I have to interrupt you.
No.
Just because you're quoting a number of cases, I have to interrupt you.
No, listen to me.
The Indian Army in this case has backed Major Gogoi.
Army chief is not about... The Indian Army is not about the law. We've had an army chief who has fudged his date of birth certificate, if I might remind you.
But people like Farooq Ahmed Dar and the stone pelters are above law.
Don't bring in General BK Singh. You don't know the details and you are bringing an unwanted issue. We are discussing this particular issue. Why are you bringing that General BK Singh's case? If you want to discuss this, I am prepared. I will give you documents to prove that General BK Singh was absolutely right.
Stop screaming. I don't know who you are. Stop screaming. Stop screaming.
He's Brigadier Mahalingam.
The Jammu and Kashmir State Human Rights Commission has quasi-judicial powers. Brigadier Saab, let me speak. You will also get to speak. आप मुझसे बड़े हैं, लिहाज कीजिए. The Jammu and Kashmir State Human Rights Commission has quasi-judicial powers. It is not a kangaroo court that you ridicule sitting in your studios. The brief and the autonomous character of the J&K State Human Rights Commission states that it verifies all facts with its quasi-judicial authority and takes a call. If you think that they've taken a wrong call, why don't you go through the case diaries? Why don't you challenge it? But to say that the State Human Rights Commission has insulted Major Gogoi by reaching a conclusion of an
Brigadier Mahalingam now wants to come in.
The judicial processes of this country. An army man can commit a wrong.
Brigadier Mahalingam.
I won't interrupt
let me tell you, first of all, as far as the Human Rights Commission is concerned, it cannot work on a vacuum. It cannot be oblivious to what is happening around it. In fact, when it examined the case, it should have examined the entire issue. I would like to ask that very same commission, what about the human rights of those people who were stranded in that election booth? What about the human rights of those soldiers on whom the stones were being pelted? This has been happening time and again all over the time for the last 1 year, and has this very same Human Rights Commission opened its mouth? It has kept shut and it has got a terrible record of bringing in such judgments. This is unacceptable as far as I am concerned.
Shabnam Lone, take that accusation. He's making a very strong point. He says the State Human Rights Commission seems to be, that's actually an allegation. He says the judgments and the cases they take up seem motivated.
Okay, Anjana, to be very fair, now let me ask you and let me ask Brigadier Mahalingam. Brigadier Mahalingam, sir, I have got great regard for you. Have you read the judgment? Anjana, have you read the judgment?
Absolutely.
Did India Today get a copy of the judgment?
We can play it for you.
What is the final outcome? I just want to know, this Human Rights Commission, which has awarded 10 lakh of rupees to that man,
please give
has
me,
it considered under what circumstances this officer?
Sir,
I want to ask you, not only you, I want to ask Junaid Mattu also a question.
I'm not talking.
As an army officer,
I'm not
just
talking.
give me a second. I ask you a question, you need to answer me. As an army officer, I want to know, what are the subordinate commanders, that the battalion commander, the company commander, the brigade commander and the divisional commanders are expected to tell the Jawan when they say that we are here, we are being pelted stone at every time, you gave us a task and we went and did this, and under these circumstances you are giving 10 lakhs of rupees to that man and a sort of a commendation card to me. Do they want us here? Why should we be here? What answer do you think that the army officers need to give these people? Give me a straight answer.
Okay. Now listen to me, sir. I am answering you as an advocate of the Supreme Court now. Law has to be followed by everyone, including you, including India Today, including Anjana. Now, once you have not read the judgment, on what basis are you making these assertions?
We have read the judgment.
Secondly, in a democracy, what is of paramount importance is constitutional supremacy.
You will say that the stone pelters also need to follow the law of the land. Shabnam Lone, we will just play out that order for you on the screen. Let's get a grab of that order.
If the law of this country has to
I am waiting for the day you will say the stone pelters need to follow the law of the land.
Judgment. And if has they should follow. What are you saying? It is the state government which has failed. Those people who are doing anti-national work, they should be caught. But listen to me. What
here
are you
it is, the order played for you, right here.
You are sitting in judgment of our honorable High Court, and you have absolutely no right to pass these remarks against the judge. So if the BJP spokesperson Ravindra Naina or Brigadier Mahalingam, then do one thing, declare SSRC illegal.
I have a problem as an army officer when I face my troops. I have all along been commanding troops. I want to know from you, what should I tell my troops?
Stop this, stop glorifying the army. No, you just tell me, sir, are you as an army man bound to follow the law of the land or not?
Okay.
Sir, are you bound to follow the land?
He should have waited. Okay, so answer this question.
If you
okay, before I go to RSP Singh, before I go to RSP Singh,
others can.
RSP Singh, just a minute, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am. Just a minute,
Stop this hello,
just a minute,
around the army.
Okay, we know, we get it. You have a problem. You have a major problem with us glorifying the army. You just want them to be there at the borders, serve the nation, put their lives at risk, let their families be at home, waiting alone. But you have a problem when we glorify them. You want the security of the country at the borders. You want to be in the center of the country. You're in New Delhi right now. But when we glorify the army, you have a problem. You stay in India, you have a problem with glorifying the army. We get you completely, Shabnam Lone. My question is to you, Suhail. Mr. Junaid Mattu, just a minute, ma'am.
Just a minute, ma'am.
Just a minute, ma'am.
Absolutely
beyond the point, this decibel fight just becomes too much. Our viewers don't like it. Let's speak one by one, ma'am. Junaid Mattu, I have a problem. Just a minute, ma'am. Junaid Mattu, I have a question for you. Let me come in, ma'am, please. Junaid Mattu, I have a question for you before I go to RSP Singh. And my question to you, Junaid Mattu, is this. So should Major Gogoi also have waited? Let the insane crowd of 1,000 stone pelters go ahead with what they wanted to do. They were pelting stones in an unchecked manner. He had to save the lives of people there, of the election duty team there. Should he have let his fate be like DSP Mohammad Ayub Pandit? Not done what actually came to his mind to save these people? Is that what you're saying?
Please don't use, the tragedy of DSP Mohammad Ayub Pandit to score a premeditated point in this case.
Every time we ask a hard-hitted question, you think this is about quoting this versus that.
Mold so easily.
It's connected, Junaid Mattu. It's connected.
Ma'am, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm not here for your interruptions. I'm not here for your 2-second time slots to answer your 10-second questions.
Go ahead and answer my question. Don't go away.
This whole choreographed lie that a serving major of the Indian Army in an unprecedented fashion gave a news press conference from an army camp. The problem is that us Indians, we fit in the gullible mold very easily. Whatever we are told in national interest, we'll believe it. If we are told in national interest that Major Gogoi did something more heinous and terrible than this, we'll believe it, that it was done in national interest. This guy was apprehended in one village? Why was he paraded in 23 other villages tied to a car? The video that was shot was not in the village of the polling booth. It was in a village which is 7 villages away from the polling booth. Let the courts find out. If the law of the land is supreme, that Major Gogoi will be vindicated. He has nothing to worry about. The J&K State Human Rights Commission is a quasi-judicial authority within the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, which finds its validity within the Constitution of India. Have some faith in the processes of law and of Constitution. Screaming on news channels will neither prove Major Gogoi a hero, nor will it prove Farooq Ahmed Dar a villain. Both of them have the right to the due process of law.
Okay.
Let the due process of law take its entire toll in its entire expanse and extent, and then let us see who is a hero and who is a villain. That is the simple point here. Brigadier Mahalingam screaming in national interest, or me bearing his screams in national interest, will not amount to anything apart from as you said, decibel debating.
Junaid Mattu, I would have been the first person to call a spade in case he had done a mistake. Having said that, you did not answer my question. My question is, as a commander, I mean, we don't discuss, the files are not floated and discussed as to what decision the field commander needs to take. The field commander needs to take a decision then and there when there is a threat, when there is a problem. It is a high-tense situation. Under those circumstances, please tell me whether what he did was correct. Should the Human Rights Commission or whichever court it was should not have taken that into consideration? And should we, as an army officer, what would I go and tell my Jawan when he says, you sent me, I went for a task to save people, we saved them, and at the end of the day, the man who was a stone pelter, he gets the award, and I am being rebuked. What answer do I say? Please give me an answer to that.
Answer that, Junaid.
Can I give you an answer?
Yeah, please.
I'll give you the same answer. I'll give you the same answer that I gave to the topmost military leadership of this country when I spoke at an Indian Army seminar in Delhi cantonment earlier this month. The fact of the matter that we are even, comparing the standards that we hold the Indian Army of to standards that we should have of non-state actors is a very contemptuous outlook for the institution of the army. I think the Major Gogoi issue was an insult to the army first and then to that guy. As far as you know, you are not the only army commander who has served in Kashmir. I respect your service, but fact of the matter is you follow the standard operating procedure. If that means you to shoot at somebody, you have to shoot at somebody's leg, shoot at somebody's leg.
I just wanted a straightforward answer.
But using a human
Put yourself in my place. Put yourself in the place of a battalion commander. Tell me what is he supposed to tell the truth?
You have to obey the land of the land. You have to obey the law of the land.
So therefore, should I tell him that what he did is wrong?
Obey the law of the land and the army regulations.
What should I tell him? Please tell me. Don't give me these lectures. I've heard these lectures quite a bit.
And Major Gogoi should be behind bars.
I've heard these lectures. Tell me what is he supposed to tell the people?
Apparently not, because you have a very flawed understanding of the constitution of this country. You have to tell him to follow standard operating procedures according to which
what is a standard operating procedure? Please tell me what is that standard operating procedure? In a situation where there is tense situation, when there is stone is being pelted, when at the other end there are people are about to be lynched, what is the standard operating procedure that you are talking about?
No. Nobody was about to be lynched. Were you there? Were you there? Are you an eyewitness to this whole account?
I know the situation. I have spoken to the people who are there. I have spoken to the people who are involved in there.
How do you know?
I have read all the newspapers. I am aware.
Is it possible they were lying? Is it possible Major Gogoi is a liar? Is it possible Major Gogoi is a liar, or is it not possible?
How convenient it is for you to call Major Gogoi a liar, but every time we talk about the stone pelters, your voice, your words just soften down and everything becomes about the Jammu Kashmir government. Your stand is so partial, but before I go, before we again get into this fight of words, I want to go to RP and saying, what's your government stand going to be on this? The State Human Rights Commission says 10 lakhs of compensation to Farooq Ahmed Dar. Now, you're the party which actually goes around saying this nation's army, supreme respect, what Major Gogoi did was the perfect thing to do. Now, what will you do? Will you follow the directions of the State Human Rights Commission?
Well, if people like Junaid Mattu, friends like Junaid Mattu don't believe in the word of army, then my stand is clear. I mean, we don't need to believe in the word of even Justice Bilal. It's not a final word. It's not the final word in the world. I mean, it's not a gospel truth that he has said so and we have to everyone to accept it. I mean, he can also go wrong, and judgments have gone wrong, and judgments have been challenged earlier also, and probably this judgment will also be challenged because it's very clear. I mean, as I know about it, I probably will dig more into it. I mean, has he called army? Has he called some a person from the army to give their version also into this? I mean, just by going by one man version and not accepting the other version, I mean, probably that judgment can be flawed judgment also. And our party stand is clear that it is unacceptable. And the state government has to take a call on this, and we are hopeful the state government will take the call.
With this directive, just a minute, sir, I have to slip into a break. Sohail Bukhari, I'll come to you. The big question is, with this direction to give 10 lakhs of compensation to Farooq Ahmed Dar, the message going out seems to be, pelt the Indian army and you will be awarded. Sohail Bukhari, I want to come to you. See, ultimately, the message that seems to be going out, if following the directions of the State Human Rights Commission, the Jammu and Kashmir government gives 10 lakhs, is that you can pelt stones at the army and then get rewarded for it, compensated for it. Is that a good message to go out at this time?
Well, to begin with, I think that's a flawed understanding of the judgment, and drawing such an inference is definitely not rational. I would also like to point out that let's all on this panel observe some restraint and give due respect to a quasi-judicial body which has been framed under the constitutionalities of the country and the state. And also, we must know that the person who is heading this body is no less than an ex-chief justice of one of the states of this country. We are not talking about an observation or a judgment given out by some banana, some kangaroo court or a jirga. It's a constitutional, observation and a judgment that has come from a person who definitely would know more of law than anybody from us in this panel. Having said that, there's another problem with this whole narrative that we are talking about right now, is that either you have to believe what Major Gogoi had to say and the stance of the army, or for that matter the central government has been, or else you are anti-national or you're lying. I would want to bring to fore the fact that it's such a complex issue that people from within the community of the Indian Army, those who were even veterans, have disagreed. You have people as decorated and as experienced like Lieutenant General Panag, who has had a contrary view to what has happened. The stance that he has had is different from what others have had.
No, but
so
I have two counterpoints for you.
Either stand by what I have to say, or else you are anti-national and there is no scope. There is no scope. I don't think that makes sense.
Sohail, I have two counterpoints for you. A, it's just a recommendation. The state government can say we don't want to give this compensation, right? So in that sense, it's just a direction, it's a recommendation. Point number two, when you say that there have been people within the army who have contradicted it, please understand there's a difference between putting forth a point of view and then on the other hand giving compensation to this man who is being actually called a stone pelter by Major Gogoi. So where do we stand? Listen, as a country we can't be on both sides. The army is also a huge institution in this country. The army says we will reward Major Gogoi.
Therefore, as a country,
and the State Human Rights Commission says we will compensate Farooq Ahmed Dar.
Anjana, as a country,
do you know what we look like with these two different decisions?
Anjana,
yeah.
Yes, I do know what we look like, and in fact, I am proud that here is an observation or a judgment that comes despite the fact that one of the strongest institutions in this country has had a contrary view, which means that as a country we are a country that is governed by the constitutionality and law is supreme.
One final response to that from the brigadier.
No matter which they are above law.
Mr. Sohail,
Second,
Please understand, we need to answer the truth. We need to tell them this constitutionality is not a thing which the Jawan understand. Please tell me in a very simple way, what am I supposed to tell the Jawan? He is going to ask me, sir, have I done a mistake? Tell me which way I should have acted. What answer are we supposed to give him? Please give me the answer. Don't give me all lectures. I am not interested.
And Jawans are outlaws. Are they outlaws? Please tell me this. Are our Jawans and army officers outlaws? Are they?
What is he saying?
We didn't get your last word.
Please repeat your question.
I am saying, are our Jawans the ones who would act against the law?
Obviously not.
In the constitution.
Obviously not. Obviously not.
Please tell me.
Obviously not. They won't act against the law.
The Indian army has gone wrong. I have always stood by what is right.
Then we will tell them that this is law, there is an SOP.
No, please understand. My question stands as it is. I'm afraid we'll have to end this debate here. But the big question actually still remains. Is this a celebration of the Constitution where two big institutes in India give contradictory views, or are such decisions just running down the morale of the Indian army? A question this country must face. I'm afraid we'll have to end the debate there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in this debate.